So we're kind of coming from left field in a way because, well, first of all, we're coming from the west side of Palm Walk and where the humanities and the arts reside. Thankfully, we have Helen on the team to give us a little credibility. I want to give credit to our larger team. Meredith Drum is a new hire, actually, in the intermediate program in the School of Art, and her specialty is augmented reality and using new technologies in the field to create teaching tours and that kind of thing. So we're very excited about employing her technology. Dr. Eric Margolis is a professor over in the Hugh Downs School of Communication, and his specialty is visual ethnography, of doing interpretations of photography and film and video materials. Helen is part of our team also, and then our final person who is not here is Sean Latupa McWhorter, and he is a computer programmer, technologist, and GIS specialist who's part of the team. From the back window of my suburban house in Tempe, Arizona, life is good. I gaze across an oasis fueled by flood irrigation, the recreational, aesthetic, and health benefits of our pool, which I see as essential here, the unquestioned but expected reliability of quality, drinkable water flowing from our taps, and even our garden hoses. We can drink out of our garden hoses. Thank you, SRP. I am content. But all is not well in the garden, I think, as we've observed today. I personally find myself in a quandary trying to understand the river in its totality versus my complicity in maintaining the suspect status quo at the local level. My understanding of the river as a living system is out of sync with the lifestyle it enables here at home. Dang. Is it possible to find a balance between our understanding of the system as a whole and the individual stories of those who depend on the Colorado River for their lifestyles, livelihoods, and lives? Well, with that sort of preface, we're launching into a project which tries to gather multiple stories of place from individuals residing along the entire reach of the Colorado. And this collection will be shared by individuals with direct experience with the Colorado River, and it seeks to restory the landscape of the Southwest by giving voice to individuals with unique perspectives on the river and the basin as a whole, and then crafting a collective alternative vision for the future, if you will. I think one of the things we've learned today is that we can't continue business as usual. We have to come up with a compelling alternative story. So among the things we seek to do, we're going to be combining first-person accounts with data gathered from the internet and other digital sources. We have developed a participatory website where people can upload their own stories of place, their own videos, their own audio, their own text, which in turn are hyperlinked on a map. As this archive grows, what we hope will happen, and we're just at the front end of this project, and I should mention that it's being funded by a seed grant from the Institute for Humanities Research. But as this archive grows, what we hope to see happen is that people become aware of, sensitive to, the kind of lifestyles and choices that people are making system-wide, that they're not making choices from the point of view of a cotton farmer in Phoenix, or a jet skier in Lake Havasu, or a snowboarder in Telluride, but they're all appreciative of everyone else's perspective. And that seems to be something that rarely happens. It's such an enormous system, it's impossible to get our heads around it. Finally, our goal is to help shape an alternative future. This sounds very bold, doesn't it? One that will support a sustainable and resilient future. Now I'm going to bring up Helen, and she's going to talk, I think, more like a scientist relative to some of these issues.
I don't know. Let's see. So we wanted to structure the interviewing process. It was helping us to think about the different communities of interest within water sciences. So we have science, policy, cultural narratives, education, and conservation. And we hope to draw on all of these areas from all these spheres. We hope that this project can, as Dan said, weave a narrative of these different perspectives and build this alternative vision. One area of interest that many of our speakers have talked about is this intersection between science and policy. Decision Center for a Desert City at ASU is a leader in this boundary area. And so one example of a possible outcome would be to help contribute to some of the perspectives that they use in this dialogue. And other scientists, this project depends on participation from all these spheres. And so we're hoping, and this is a little bit of a ad campaign, we hope that people will see what we're doing here, and Dan's going to explain more about that. But we hope that there will be participation from all these, and that perhaps tie together all the different complexities of the different spheres in water.
Thank you, Helen. Here's a working website, work in progress, and you can see that we've gone to the next link, map your story. So this would be what somebody would see who's interested in adding their information to the website. And so there would be lat-long material, and then also places where you can browse to files and upload them to the website, and then that information would be sent to us, and we'd have to vet it and then link it to the website. And as that thing grows, then multiple pins will appear along the length of the Colorado. So we just want to take you through a little bit further along the watershed. There's a wonderful photographer who lives in the Roaring Fork Valley named Pete McBride. Maybe some of you are aware of his work. And one of the things that we found is probably as good as us going out in the field with our video cameras is trolling the internet and talking to people by phone and getting pre-existing information and materials and linking that to the site. We got Pete's permission to use his materials. We do want to interview him directly at some point, but he also works as a National Geographic photographer and has done both kayaking along the river and actually flown the length of the Colorado with his camera. So let's play a little bit of this.
My name's Pete McBride. I live in Basalt, Colorado. I grew up in the Aspen area. About age 8, I moved down 30 minutes down valley to a ranch my family still owns and we operate. As a boy, I spent a lot of time irrigating, quote, chasing water. But it wasn't until later in life I did a project where I followed irrigation water to see how long it would take to get to the ocean. My project evolved into a book called The Colorado River Flowing Through Conflict and a short film called Chasing Water. The Colorado River Basin covers 7 states and 2 countries. We divert it and use water to shape towns, cities, municipalities, but we've also shaped a river that ran to the sea for 6 million years. And we dried it up. The river dries up right at the US-Mexican border in what I like to call the Frappuccino pit. It's just this little frothy pit full of brown muck, plastic bottles, garbage. It used to be one of the largest desert estuaries in North America. For me, it became very evident how scarce water is. Water in rivers is valuable, not just aesthetically, but financially, economically. The Colorado River, in its entirety, brings in $26 billion in recreation. I live in a little town here in central Colorado, and I have green grass. I have a sprinkler system. And after doing this project, it hit me like a hammer between the eyes that I'm just as much of a user as everyone else is. So I actually turned my front yard into a garden and put it on a dribble system. It takes less water out of my sprinkler and I actually can eat it. We're blessed with a remarkable resource and we need to cherish it and we need to pay attention. It's all connected, it's all related. There's now 36 million people that depend on the Colorado River, and we need ag, we need development, we need oil and gas, but a lot of the treasures that are around us are paying the price.
Speaking of kind of trolling the internet for interesting video, you know, and I mean this in the best sense. This next kind of clip is from Vernon Masieva, who's a Hopi elder. And what we're seeing, it's really hard to see in this slide, but this is that same mapping protocol that we're using, which is an online version of the ArcGIS suite that some of you probably use in your work. But Esri has done a lot of work in terms of, I guess, trying to compete with Google on some level. But one of the benefits of using the Esri products is that you can take vector files and shape files and so on and upload them directly to these easy-to-use interfaces that allow you to use a shape file or a vector file. For example, when I built that map, I just went online to the archive here at ASU and got the shape file for the Colorado River, and then just uploaded it to the Esri product that would allow me to build the online product. And that's something that students can do very quickly. Because I'm sure a lot of you have spent a lot of time working with ArcGIS, and it's you know, it's a daunting kind of piece of software, to be sure. So to be able to use both and not sort of jettison ArcGIS in your interest in getting stuff online, I really kind of recommend some of the products that Esri's putting out there. This is called Arc Explorer. Anyway, this is a really kind of low-quality piece of tape, but it's him talking about traditional Hopi attitudes towards water. And this is in the context of him introducing a Japanese hydrologist who's come to Hopi to talk to the Hopi people. So we don't hear from the Japanese guy, but we're letting Vernon speak a little bit here. So. And actually, I'm going to fast forward a little bit here. We haven't, eventually this will get edited down.
For you. As you fly over our mesa, and if you are on a plane, what you see is a hand like this, another hand on top of it. Inside is fresh water, lots of it, put here to keep us moving thousands of years. And as we all know, that's where Peabody is getting all of the water to make gravy called cold slurry, and then to use more water to pump it 273 miles into Nevada. And the reason they're using that fresh water, pristine water, is because it has very few chemicals in it.
I should mention
So
this
when
was
they
2005
use
that
water,
this was done.
It doesn't corrode the pipes as fast if you were to use water that's not as good. And they are by the time, and we have fought the fight to stop them. Black Mesa Trust was organized primarily for that reason. And we are succeeding. December 31st, we're going to have a big party. We have a countdown because that's when we're going to be shutting the pumps down. They are shutting them down December 31st. The bad part is that by the time they shut down, they will use over 40 billion gallons of the most pristine water you can find anywhere in the world. If 8,000 to 10,000 Hopis were to use that amount of water, 40 billion, it would take us around between 700 and 800 years to use that amount of water. And Peabody will have wasted that in 35 years. They have taken water from our children. But We have stopped them, but not, and as we were fighting this war against Peabody, it was hard to do because we had to play the game according to their rules. Meaning we had to fight the fight using Western science, but there was no way for us to win the fight using their rules, playing a game in their territory, following their rules. So water told us, the water said, bring the fight to your territory. Talk about water as I have told you, your ancestors, about what water is, about how it works. It works like a body. There is the underground water, there is the sea water, there are the rivers, and there's the cloud waters, the ocean clouds, the cosmic sea, the earthly waters, and Ba'duwakatu, which is the ocean. He said, they're one big body. They all work together to make life possible. And so we followed their advice. We listened to the elders. They shared with us many information about traditional wisdom. I call it Hopi science. And that is when Peabody could not fight us. That's how we won. We went to our ancient traditions, ancient knowledge, and Mr. Emoto confirmed what we have always believed. In a sense, we have put ourselves into a position where we now feel obligated to share our knowledge with the rest of the world, because all over the world, people are faced with water crisis. Every 8 seconds, a child dies because they don't have fresh water.
I don't know about you, but it's a pretty powerful piece of video. We're going to find the final clip that we'll show. We're looking at the edge of Lake Havasu, and again in Google Earth. And where's my cursor? There it is. Here's the famous London Bridge right here, just to orient you. And this whole town, we learned, I had no idea. It was started by McCullough, of the McCullough chainsaw fortune, and so he needed a place to test his ski boats, and he had a big factory in LA, and he found he could set up shop and have not quite the tax impact that he had in Southern California, so he moved his whole operation to Lake Havasu and basically designed the city, and in the early 60s. So this is kind of an amazing story. And he, along with one of his visionary buddies, they figured out how to get the London Bridge when it came on the auction block. He brought it to Lake Havasu and as a kind of tourist attraction. And in fact, they dredged this, or they actually constructed this canal that separates what was a peninsula coming off from the land to create a sort of a little estuary here for the London Bridge. But in any case, our friend Paul Haberstroh is a chemistry professor at the Mojave Community College, and so we went over and talked to him about his ideas about Mojave and teaching science in the desert.
I'm Dr. Paul Haberstroh. I got my PhD from Hawaii about 10 years ago. I am the resident faculty in the physical sciences, which is a long way of saying meaning I teach the chemistry courses and some biology courses here since about '05. the lake is gorgeous. It is a dammed up portion of the Colorado River that is not that well monitored. It's primarily servicing, a lot of fossil fuel burning powerboat, jet ski tournaments. I really don't have a good feel of how that's affecting the lake, mostly because we haven't been monitoring it. And it seems to me it's a natural opportunity as we build up our student base and our instrument base that we should be monitoring the lake on a monthly basis for water quality parameters. It would be easy to do. It's easy to get the students involved in doing that. It's simply a matter of building up enough instrumentation base, which we're finally at. I think involving students who are citizens, where they can actually learn a lot about environmental science techniques, sampling technique, and doing that, they're going to have they'll have sort of it'll be their territory. They'll possess they'll have a sense of proprietary knowledge that they'll want to share with their parents or their uncles or their grandparents. Look, we went down the river. This is the level. This is the problems. By involving the students, we'll be naturally involving the greater citizen base. And that's part of the problem here. A lot of these communities along the Colorado River are sort of retirement communities, and they're not getting a lot of input from younger kids involved with the Colorado.
Okay, just in the interest of time, we've got a great hour of tape from him, but you could see where there's certain kinds of themes that can be keyed out from all of these texts, all of these narratives, and we're kind of working in a bottom-up fashion, an inductive way, where we will be teasing out certain keywords and larger themes that will help us to construct an alternative story. So, as I said, we're right at the beginning of this, and we only have about 20. We expect it by, in a year's time that we'll have hundreds of stories posted online all up and down the whole reach of the Colorado. Okay, just a couple of other points. If you haven't seen this movie, I recommend it. It definitely relates to some of the issues around the mitigation of the Delta, and we learned a lot about the Delta Legacy Project today. There was a wonderful film produced by the Redford Center called Watershed, exploring a new water ethic for the New West. So I won't play that right now. Just a couple of notes about some of the other technology we hope to use. There's some challenges attached to this. The technology is moving very quickly. A lot of it is cell phone based. You probably all have GPS enabled phones right now. One of the challenges is the difference between augmented reality that requires keys or markers in the field of vision of the camera versus the coming markerless augmented reality. There's some examples out there, but it's hard to get accurate registration without having keys in the landscape, targets for the camera to lock into. But again, our friend and colleague Meredith Drum will help us move through that territory and understand it more completely. But the idea would be to have an enhanced contextual information that would be available to you on site. And I think this is one of the opportunities that's very exciting right now, is where we can have an embodied experience of place, go out to the river, experience it firsthand, primary information, but have this enhanced layer of information that's delivered through smartphones and other technologies. Just another view. She's done a lot of work in Manhattan. She just came to us from Pratt Institute, which is a very highly regarded art institute in Brooklyn. And then the last technology, again, I'm just going to do screenshots, but a lot of you have played with Google Earth. I seem to go to Google Earth every few months and see what new changes, what new opportunities are there. I think I've been doing this for the last 10 years, been out there a long time. The latest version of Google Earth Pro does allow you to upload true GIS type shapefiles and so on. So it's really going to be giving traditional GIS a run for its money. We're experimenting with doing some fly-throughs using Google Earth. This is just north of Blythe, Arizona. And again, this is satellite-generated DEM models. Your bones are done with polygonal data, ultimately, that are then texture mapped with aerial photography. So that's why you get this distortion, because it's really being mapped in this kind of weird hybrid between two-dimensional information and three-dimensional information. One thing I'd point out in this particular scene is this little town of Poston. These are the kinds of stories that we've just discovered getting out there, but this is the green area represents basically the perimeter of the Crit Indian Nation, the Colorado River Indian tribes. Honestly, I'd never heard of Crit, but it really represents 4 different tribes: the Mojave, descendants of the Utes, and then there were families of Navajos and also Hopi that came into this region in the late 19th century. And during the Second World War, there was a community of 17,000 that were incarcerated here. Japanese detainees were shipped off to a concentration camp in Poston. And I didn't know this either. I knew about Manzanar and some of the others, but right in Arizona, there were a couple of concentration camps. And so we went to the original site of Poston, and some of the buildings are still there, and there's a memorial there. One of the interesting stories was we went to, where were we? I guess we were in Parker, and we went to the Crit Indian Museum in Parker and talked to the curator there. And the problem there was we couldn't interview her on tape without going through a 3-month approval process. It's amazing. In any case, she talked to us off camera and was telling us about the Japanese at Poston and how, in fact, they did introduce irrigation techniques and so on to the Native Americans in this area. She says, oh yeah, before the Japanese, the Mojaves would go out and they throw their seed corn along the river and depend on the cycles of flooding. And that was the way things were done for centuries. But after the Japanese, they turned this whole valley into a breadbasket. And it's quite amazing. It's just high-tech farming all through that whole district if you go over there. And I don't know how many cuttings they're doing of alfalfa, but it's probably 8-10 cuttings a year of alfalfa hay. A lot of cotton, too. And then back up to Lake Havasu through the eyes of Google Earth. And in our tour, I mean, you can construct these tours and then export them as videos. And if you have the pro version of Google Earth, you can do high-res video capture. So that might be a tool that would be interesting for your own research, where you could do a fly-through of a particular landscape, save it out as an MP4, and put it into another video or some other product. So we'll have links in this. This keeps cutting in and out, I think. Right there, like where it says the London Bridge, that's a hot link, a hyperlink, and you'll be able to click on that, and it brings up a separate page and discusses those features. On up the watershed to the Grand Canyon National Park, and again, this is all simulation. This isn't three-dimensional photography. This is texture mapping, color information on top of DEM maps, digital elevation models. So that's really our presentation, and we'd love to chat with you further with any questions.